Elbe Philharmonic Hall, the centerpiece of Hamburg's new HafenCity, currently Europe's biggest urban construction project. An area formerly dominated by warehouses and where freighters once docked is being converted into a new district comprised of office and residential buildings. It will expand Hamburg's inner city by some 40%. In China, on the other hand, an entirely new ecological pilot city is springing up in a hitherto largely undeveloped area near the port city of Tianjin. The satellite town and future home of 350,000 was conceived on the drawing board. By European standards, it resembles a faceless suburb, but to the Chinese, it's a symbol of progress. The Tianjin Eco-city is to become China's model green city, planned by the Chinese government in collaboration with the government of Singapore. A city of the 21st century, or an urban model for ecologically sustainable development, is how Hamburg is promoting its new project around the world. Environmentally friendly skyscrapers are being erected close to the city's historic warehouse district. The competition to design the port city expansion was won by architect Markus Neppel in 1999, and he's responsible for its overall planning. Half of the new city is already finished. Hamburg expects great things from the project. It should make history and define the city for decades to come. But what is really meant by the phrase sustainable, future-oriented construction?
In Europe, we clearly understand it to include economic, as well as ecological and social concerns. And they must all be kept in balance in a sustainable city. So that also means we're trying to incorporate the latest energy standards. We have a local heating supply system, and the buildings meet very high standards. And of course, we're trying to configure the public spaces as well. That's a wide spectrum, and you have to keep all these things in mind if you want to turn the area into a functioning part of the city.
Although the HafenCity has been planned as a coherent urban ensemble, each of its 10 quarters, be it the Bruchtorkei, Sandtorkei, or the Überseequartier, has its own distinct character. Individual competitions were announced for each of the buildings in the area. Renowned architects from all over the world are realizing their visions of environmentally friendly construction. The agency administering the new port city, the HafenCity Hamburg GmbH, has developed Germany's first environmental building certification process. In addition to energy conservation, it also factors the overall sustainable development of densely populated areas into the equation.
Here people live, work, enjoy culture, and shop just as they do in the city centre. Back in 2000, that was a totally new concept. We established so-called mix ratios for each quarter, making sure there was a little bit of everything in each one. That didn't go down well at all in the beginning. A lot of people were quite skeptical, and the plan was widely criticized. They said it was uninspired, it had no vision, it was boring. In the meantime, I think that in many respects, thanks to the plan, a lot of different things are now possible. And I think Hamburg is slowly realizing what it's getting here.
More and more tourists are also fascinated by the HafenCity. The whole project is due for completion in 2025. While the western part of HafenCity is already almost finished, the eastern part is still under construction. Pipes for a local heating network are being laid here, which will supply the surrounding buildings with heating from mainly sustainable energy sources. This will provide green heating for flats and produce hot water for showers and other things. There's another major construction site right next door at the Magdeburg harbor. Retaining walls and barriers are being installed to protect the district from flooding. Hamburg's streets and cellars are susceptible to flooding during storm surges. 14,000 people are to live here. Hamburg is setting new standards for living and working on the waterfront.
The Science Center will go there, in the second part of the Übersee Quartier. And over there will be the new HafenCity University. The whole area will be a university district. We recognize that having the university here also provides an important form of public space. I think the building will be great, with the latest energy technology standards. So it means there's a lot of experimentation going on. And the city is also making a very important statement by saying we're taking our educational institutions to HafenCity.
China's new ecological city, on the other hand, is being created almost out of thin air. The groundbreaking ceremony only took place 3 years ago, yet the whole thing is due to be completed by 2020. The man in charge of the vast project is Ho Tong-yen of Singapore.
When we started, this was just one huge piece of barren, polluted land. 1/3 of it was deserted salt farms. 1/3 polluted waters, decades of pollution. There was nothing eco about the site. We are confident that in a few years' time, we will see here a thriving new city. It will not look completely out of place because it's intended to blend in and look like many other Chinese cities, but at the same time, subtly woven into the city will be many green features, will be attempts to tap renewable energy, and in general, promote a more sustainable way of life.
China's environmental vision is to be realized on reclaimed wetlands by the sea. A turnkey-ready eco-project with 4 green districts built around a winding river. The Chinese government is subsidizing the construction. Because too many ecological projects in China have already failed, everything is being carefully managed. It's a purpose-built ecological city, so to speak.
What differentiates the Tianjin Eco-city from some of the other eco-cities that are being built is the fact that we focus a lot on practicality. So in all we do, we consider, can this be done somewhere else? What we hope is that the ideas tested here can be done in other parts of China and beyond. We are developing the city on approximately 30 square kilometers of land. We think that this is a reasonable size for us to carry out this experiment.
One of the principles behind China's model green city is that everything should be easily accessible to the people living there. Urban planner Yu Xiao envisages a number of 400 by 400 meters square ecological quarters, each able to function as a town in its own right.
We took the climate into account, as well as the manner in which Chinese spend their time outside the home. Each quarter has everything its residents need for day-to-day life. We want to encourage them to walk more, or ride bicycles and drive cars less. This will cut carbon dioxide emissions. We want to encourage a whole new way of living.
Back to Hamburg. This city of 2 million is one of Germany's wealthiest. Hamburg is known around the world for its huge seaport, which handles millions of tons of goods every year. Just across the water, the skyline of the new HafenCity. More than 1,200 residents have moved in already. Eventually, 40,000 people will be working for international companies. HafenCity is on the way to becoming a major economic motor for Hamburg. But concerns about the new district's ecological credentials persist. Too little greenery, too many buildings. Many say bleak and sterile, too expensive, too elitist. Even Hamburg's Council for Future Development has called it a district for the rich. It's harsh criticism.
HafenCity GmbH continues to organize tours for its critics, international experts, architecture critics, and sociologists who are asked to give their opinion of it all. All that is on record. But there are also meetings with the residents. The locals here have got themselves organized, and it's all taken into account in the ongoing planning.
Land in HafenCity is eye-wateringly expensive. But there are also flats owned by cooperatives, such as Susanna Wegener's. When she moved in 5 years ago, she was one of HafenCity's first residents. She set up a network and has been working hard to develop a sense of neighborhood and counter the image of a luxury district.
They're taking a lot of different things into account in the eastern section, partly because of the criticism, but also because the current city parliament is insisting on it. It's now building a lot of new residential housing with a high proportion of wheelchair-accessible accommodation, right down to subsidized housing, to ensure this isn't left out of the picture.
Many residents feel that neighborhood meetings like this one, organized by Susanna Wegener, give them something of a voice. They discuss local festivals and events, flea markets and noise control, as well as legal issues.
It came about because basic conditions are very good, and there are some very engaged people living and working here. In other words, people who are prepared to do things themselves and who have a significant personal stake in the district. They don't just live here, but are very interested in the concept and how it develops.
Living and working is what this concept is all about. The Marco Polo Tower, with its spacious luxury flats and wonderful views over the city and port, is based on an elaborate plan for an ecological low-energy high-rise. It was designed by the Danish architects, as was the headquarters of the international conglomerate Unilever, right next door. The building won the HafenCity Gold Award for its low-impact environmental construction. Martin Haas was the architect responsible for the project, which was designed to be open and transparent.
Everything is office space. There are no individual offices per se. Any part of the building can be used. Here in the atrium, we have various communication areas, an important aspect of the new social component in office work, which is yet to be realized in its most extreme form.
The Unilever headquarters is also the first big new office building to be fully equipped with LED lighting.
LED lighting uses 70% less power and is much easier to maintain. It hardly gives off any heat, which is a great advantage because office buildings generate a lot of heat and then have to be cooled, leading to higher energy consumption. It was a great achievement for us to be able to reduce annual energy consumption to less than 100 kilowatt hours per square meter, which is a very, very good figure for office buildings of this sort.
Due to its waterside location, the building is subject to a wide range of weather conditions. It's protected by a high-tech film.
It's like a second skin, a solar screen that covers the inner facade and also provides protection against strong winds. This screen offers other benefits too. It allows staff to open or close their windows when a cruise ship is moored in the harbor. With their diesel engines, they're not exactly environmentally friendly.
And because of the boom in holiday cruises, the building's ventilation system is designed to filter out harmful pollution. Tianjin Eco-city has also set down strict environmental construction standards. Many buildings are equipped with solar energy plants to provide hot water. But this isn't all about expensive highbrow architecture. With a population of 1.3 billion, China is looking for efficient, sustainable solutions for urban construction programs throughout the country. The concept behind these apartment buildings comes from Urbana, a company in Singapore. Architect Raymond Go adapted it to northeastern China's harsh climate.
During the winter, the cold wind comes from the north, and the sun shines from the south. As a result, we orientate our blocks north-south orientation. We have the bedrooms and living rooms at the south, where they get more sun. And we have maximized window openings on the southern side and reduce the window openings on the northern side to insulate the building and make the indoor comfortable.
The new city's social composition has also been set down in detail. The Huang family are part of the middle class, to which some 60% of residential space has been allocated. Another 20% has been set aside for social housing projects, while the rest is reserved for luxury flats. The Huangs have just bought an apartment. They live in Tianjin's industrial district, where it's noisy and dirty. Now they're retiring and want something better. This is their new home, 120 square meters for the equivalent of 170,000 euros, a princely sum in China. They're enthusiastic about the ecological concept, just as they are with the European interior fittings. They can even drink the tap water. It's all a novelty for the Huangs.
I'd never heard of ideas like energy conservation or environmental protection. I'm pleased that we can regulate the air conditioning to suit our personal needs, and also that we can use rainwater to water plants, for example. We know our country's resources are limited and that water is wasted in a big way. I'm very satisfied with the living concept. I think it's very responsible.
New cities are springing up like mushrooms in China, but many buildings are standing empty, and entire ghost towns have been created, the consequence of real estate speculation. It's supposed to be different here in Tianjin Eco-city. The Chinese government is keeping a close eye on the project. It wants to create 175,000 jobs in IT and business parks. More than 600 companies have announced plans to set up there.
Most companies that are registered in the Eco-city are either involved in the green business, or at least a non-pollutive business, or they want to be associated with the goals set out by the Tianjin Eco-city, namely to pave the way to a more sustainable future. Many of the companies see this as a very ideal platform to test bed their green products and solutions, and their products can be used in the Tianjin Eco-city.
By setting up its first school in China in Tianjin Eco-city, the renowned GEMS World Academy has sent out a strong signal. Prominent figures such as Bill Clinton and Tony Blair support its model of international schooling. Soon, children from kindergarten age through 12th grade will be educated here. Graphics indicate the current energy consumption around the clock. China's youngest generations are being brought up to be environmentally conscious. Hamburg HafenCity's flagship project is the Elbe Philharmonic Hall, a futuristic building with contoured glass inspired by the waves of the river Elbe. Swiss architects Herzog and Dumeron are behind the design. In fact, the building should already have opened long ago. Now the deadline has been extended to 2014. Soaring building costs and construction errors have led to constant delays. In addition to 3 concert halls, the building will house a 5-star hotel with luxury apartments. At its center, a large concert hall with seating for 2,000.
We wanted to create proximity between the musicians and the audience, and also make it possible for individual members of the audience to interact socially. That's why we knew from the outset that we wanted to make use of this well-known vineyard typology. although we felt it was far too much like a landscape. What we had in mind was more like a vessel, more vertical and more compact, to get the audience as close to the musicians as we could. I believe we've been very successful in doing that. It's a very unique construction.
The contoured double-glazed windows are a very special feature. Each of the more than 1,000 panes is an expensive one-off.
This is a very expensive and sophisticated glass system with a very high intrinsic level of heat insulation due to the gas filling and the thickness of the panes and the distance between them. In addition to that, we've practically integrated the solar protection in the panes of glass. We did it by using an embossing process that blocks another 30% of the solar energy. At the same time, we think it's architecturally interesting. Basically, it frames the views. And seen from the outside, it also stimulates the entire skin of the glass with a very interesting pattern.
The Elbe Philharmonic Hall will cost at least 200 million euros more than originally planned. But in spite of all the controversy, nobody doubts it will eventually set new standards. But what, in fact, does a sustainable city need to get ahead of the competition?
We need new symbols, and we need different sorts of public space. I think that's worked very well here, because what we've created here is very intimate in some parts and very open in others. And we need different new buildings too. However, we mustn't forget our traditions, or what we've learned from history. That is what defines sustainability. I believe it will give us a good foundation from which to take on new technology and new buildings and so move ahead.
This is the central building in the Tianjin Eco-city. Although it looks just like a Communist Party headquarters, inside it's surprisingly futuristic. The authorities are banking on China's creative industries. Asia's biggest motion capture studio is being set up here, a launching pad for Chinese animated films to conquer the world. China aims to compete with Hollywood's blockbusters, or at least that's the plan. The energy for this futuristic vision comes from this power station, which is equipped with solar cells and geothermic plants. Most of China's energy still comes from coal, which is a nightmare in terms of climate protection. The Eco-city aims to set an example. By 2020, a fifth of the city's energy consumption is to be met with renewable sources, and geothermal heat will play a major part.
The borehole for the subterranean geothermic source is over there, under the water directly behind the central building. The borehole is 120 meters deep there. In winter, heat is drawn to the surface and converted into heat for the entire main building and the power plant generators. This creates a heat circulation system that allows us to extract geothermal heat in winter and channel it back underground in the summer.
International reactions to this model for an eco-city have been largely positive, but only time will tell whether it is socially as well as environmentally sustainable. That, however, isn't something that bothers Ho Tongyan. After all, in China, even enthusiasm for the environment is something that can be imposed from above.
I'm optimistic that over time we can encourage this change in mindset, and we're doing so through a range of measures, including education, including the publicity, the emphasis on eco ways of life, and to some extent, there will probably be a certain element of self-selection. So those people who are naturally more inclined to live sustainable lives would be more inclined to live in the eco-city. And by getting people together promoting an eco way of life, we hope that this can bring about a quantum change over time.